Hello! We have 4 stories today from Am I the Jerk? And once again, I already had my picks made but logged in looking for updates only to find a row of awards for some new stories that made me cackle with glee. Who am I to stand in the way of progress? The people have voted, and last week's winner is our first story. And as always, your support helps fight the Reddit bot menace. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. We begin with Story 1. Am I the jerk for serving my sister-in-law dinner on a kid's plate? My husband and I have family dinners at our house every month or so with our family. I have some sets of fine china that I like to switch out between the seasons that I've inherited from my grandmother. When we have our get-togethers, I serve dinner on these plates. My mother-in-law compliments them every time. My sister-in-law, however, has made comments to me that they're not her style. I honestly didn't think twice about her comment until this past February when one of my plates was put in the sink. Broken. Chalked it up to an accident. In April, we had another dinner. This time, sister-in-law was carrying both her and her boyfriend's plates to the sink and accidentally dropped both. Again, no biggie at all. In May, she broke 2 more plates, and in June, she broke a plate and a cup. At this point, I was catching on. I brought up these concerns to my husband, and he brushed it off as accidents. I told my mom, and she said she thought my sister-in-law was doing it on purpose and got me a camera to put in my dining room. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. In July, we had dinner, and I had an opportunity arise. My mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and her boyfriend joined us for dinner. While our plates were still on the table, my mother-in-law asked how my plants were doing, and I said I'd show her. I told my husband to follow us outside so he could show her the plant he's growing, leaving sister-in-law alone with her boyfriend. When we came back inside 5 minutes later, her plate was broken. When they left, I pulled up the camera footage. I saw her stand up when we walked out and peek around the corner, and then throw the plate on the ground. I kept this video to myself. That brings me to this past weekend. We had our family dinner and we were joined by my in-laws, sister-in-law, and her boyfriend, as well as my parents, siblings, and niece. I served everyone, saving evil sister-in-law for last. I brought her food out on a child's plate with a sippy cup and got those kids' silverware with the plastic handles. She looked at me confused and said, "I think you mixed my plate up with your niece's plate." And I said, "Nope. Niece's name is responsible enough to eat on a grown-up's plate. If you're going to act like a child in my home, I'm going to treat you like a child in my home." She tried to play coy, but I had my iPad ready and played the video to everyone at the table. She started sobbing, swiped the kid's plate off the table, and stormed out. My in-laws both apologized and offered to pay for replacement plates, but I told them not to worry about it. Despite this, we still had a nice time. When everyone left, my husband told me I was out of line and cruel. But I told him that this has been happening for months, and I've told him it was bothering me multiple times. It's Wednesday. He's still being a little cold to me, and I also got a text from my sister-in-law's boyfriend asking me if I would apologize to her because I really embarrassed her. I sent him the video again, and he left me on read. My husband just called me to ask if I was taunting her boyfriend because his sister called him crying that I was. So, am I the jerk? Reddit voted not the jerk. In the comments, Magenta Horse asked, "Not the jerk. Your husband and your sister-in-law's boyfriend are jerkholes, though. You inherited those from your grandmother. Sister-in-law has something seriously wrong with her mentally. Who breaks someone else's plates just because they aren't her style? Who cares about someone else's plates? It's a forking plate and it's not her house. She's behaving like a child. She deserves to be treated like one and called out. What a psycho. Does she display any other type of aggressive behaviors to you? She sounds jealous and is throwing a tantrum like a toddler." OP replied, "We were totally fine before this. We've never been super close, but close enough to grab a coffee and get our nails done together. I've been married into the family now for 6 years and I love my in-laws." She was mildly passive-aggressive in May when she asked if her boyfriend could live with us while they were having a small issue, but it was my husband that said no. But this would have been during the plate and cup breaking. OP added, "I do feel bad that I embarrassed her. I spoke with their mom today and she and my father-in-law have my back, and that I should demand her to pay for the plates, and if she doesn't, they would. Though I'm not going to make anyone do that, I got them from my grandma, so they were special to me. Money can't help the sadness of not having them back. Best part, and not mentioned by OP, though I'm not sure why, her username is Baby Shark Plate. Let me share with you, for those who aren't familiar, a little photo of what said plate looks like. And you may hate me for this, but Baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark doo 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 doo. Cece, no! Don't put that tune in my head. That's enough of that. Thank me later when you can't get it out of your head. OP is definitely not the jerk. While shaming people with a video recording wouldn't be my jam, I completely understand why she did it. The baby shark plate and sippy cup were brilliant, and she kinda needed the video evidence to justify the dig. These were sentimental keepsakes, and sister-in-law destroyed them. There's something seriously wrong with her. Our second story is another AITA, but, well, it's one of those questions that didn't really need to be asked. The reason this story was so popular and why you'll get entitled parents vibes all over was just how outrageous, hypocritical, and vindictive one mother can be in Story 2. Am I the jerk for soaking my niece with a hose after I was told not to because she was wearing white? I'm a 34-year-old male and a dad of 4. Our youngest boy, 8-year-old male, has some significant sensory issues and anger management issues, which he is being evaluated for. Important info for context. He's already been diagnosed with ODD, but this goes far beyond that. My sister, 34, my twin, has a 12-year-old daughter, Jane, who is a spoiled, rotten kid as she is an only child. My sister puts a whole new meaning to gentle parenting, as in she doesn't parent because her kid is just expressing herself and she doesn't want to parent out her personality, which sucks. I love my niece to the depth of my being, but I do not like her or my sister. I don't know how else to put it. On Saturday, we had a memorial of life service for my uncle who passed away months ago. It was held at my brother's house. There was probably about 12 kids there. We got easily 40 of those 60-pack water balloon things and let the kids go ham. It was a huge ordeal. However, my youngest at some point decided the water was too much for him to handle, said he was done playing, and came to sit by me and dry off. He was being great, which I was grateful for because he has a lot of bad days. But my niece kept coming up and throwing more water balloons at him after she was asked to stop. It was causing him to spiral, and he starts raging out, basically, and my sister was telling me to calm my kid down and tell him to stop being a baby. She didn't want to get wet, so every single time he went to throw one back, she would start screaming, telling him to stop. At that point, my sister got involved as well and yelled at my son, saying, "Don't you dare. She said not to get her wet because she's wearing white and it'll be see-through." I told her to tell her daughter to stop throwing water balloons at my son because he had already said to stop, and she said, "He's already fracking wet." So basically, my niece was perfectly fine to throw stuff at my kid who had asked her to stop repeatedly, but they weren't letting him defend himself. The last time my niece came up to him, I spoke up and said, "Don't think about it." He said no. She didn't listen and threw it anyways, so I grabbed the hose beside me and drenched her for a solid 30 seconds. She immediately starts crying and covering herself and goes to hang out in my sister's car. My sister starts berating me and stating that I knew it was going to make her clothes see-through and decided to be a creep anyway. My mom and father kicked her out for that comment. I'm getting texts from my brother-in-law, however, stating that I'm a pig and what I did was uncalled for and abusive. Also, that I would never be allowed around my niece again because I'm inappropriate. Edit to add. The dress wasn't even all white. It had a white strap along her stomach. That's the only spot of white that was on her. The rest of the dress was dark. Reddit voted not the jerk. In the comments, Odd Calligrapher said, "Not the jerk. I'm a nanny, and my rule is if you don't want to get sprayed or have water balloons thrown at you, that is perfectly fine. But you don't get to throw them at the other kids either." Fart Eagle replied, "This is basically the universal rule of water balloon and squirt gun fights. Once you become an enemy combatant, you are fair game." Unlikely Asparagus added, "I had a niece that would always attack my son. She'd hit, bite, scratch. My son is very gentle and doesn't like violence." Well, one day, after multiple bite attacks, I told her dad, "Everything she does to him, I'm doing to you for the rest of the night. You should stop drinking and get ready." Funny how they started seeing the error in her ways after that. Bitter Fishing Butt said, "Should have soaked your stupid sister as well." Susie Kubert replied, "Came here to say this. The sister needed a long hose blast right in the face until she straightened the F up. Gentle parenting my butt. If she were truly gentle parenting, she'd never have said those awful things to or about OP's son." Possible Skin added, "Somewhere between lazy and absent parenting. I'm sure the kid will turn out just fine." Not the jerk. The sister is a piece of work. I can't believe she took it next level with the creep comment. Totally uncalled for and potentially really damaging, even though it's completely unfounded. You can't be launching allegations of that nature willy-nilly. And the niece was asking to learn her lesson. OP simply stepped up. The niece played with the waves and got hit by the undertow. Our third story asks a question that at its core is more relevant than ever in the world the last few years. What is fair, and how do we define it when everyone has a different definition? Or is it just entitlement? You be the judge. In story 3, am I the jerk for charging my friends rent, then keeping the money for myself? This will be my first year in college. When I got accepted, the first person I told was my uncle. We're very close because he took care of me when I was little because of my parents' crazy work schedules. Anyway, my grades were good enough to get me in, but not enough to get me any scholarships. That means I'll have to take out loans for tuition and work for my expenses. When my uncle found out, he said I should just concentrate on school instead of working, but my dad, his brother, said that money is tight right now, so my parents can't help me out as much as they want to. My uncle has investment properties all over the place, so he said it's not a big deal for him to buy another one near my campus, which he did. Then he had contractors renovate the house so everything in there is brand new. He even had them install a bay window in the master bedroom just for me, and I got to pick out everything else like the carpet and counters. He told me he wants me to concentrate on school and not work. Instead, I can be his landlady and rent out the other 3 bedrooms and keep that money to fund my expenses. I have a group of friends who are attending the same school, so I made a deal with them. Studio apartments are going between $900 and $1,500, not including utilities, around the campus, with the expensive ones being closer. My uncle's house is 1 street over from campus, so I can literally walk to class every day. I'm charging my friends $700 per room, or if they double up, $350 per person per month and split utilities evenly. They all jumped at the offer, and no one asked any questions until recently when one of them asked me how much the overall rent was. I was honest and told them about my uncle and our deal. That blew up in my face because now every one of my friends are calling me greedy for charging them rent then pocketing the money. We're all in a huge fight and they all want to either pay nothing or throw a couple hundred in for utilities. I cried to my uncle, but he said now that I'm an adult, I need to make my own adult decision. He'll stand by my decision. I don't want to lose my friends, but I don't want to disappoint my family with bad grades either. I thought I was being fair with rent, but literally all of my friends are calling me a greedy jerk. Update 1. I went to my uncle, this time without crying, and told him some of the advice given on here and asked him for his advice. This time he didn't tell me to make my own adult decisions and told me he was waiting for this conversation. This is what we agreed to do. I texted all of my friends, former, and told them because of the arguments and hurt feelings we can no longer live together. My uncle offered to work out a lease for me in the beginning, but I refused because these were my friends. Because no one signed a lease, we didn't have to break any. I was worried about them suing, but my uncle said that the law in our state requires anything to do with real estate be in writing. Unlike other situations, real estate deals cannot be oral, so I'm good. This time, I took him up on the offer of creating a lease for me to have new tenants sign. We spent the morning researching rent prices and making ads. My friends and I made the agreement at the beginning of summer. Now that there's only a couple of weeks left until school starts, we found almost nothing within 3 miles of campus. There were some options further out, but nothing was cheaper than $1,200 for a shared room, and that was in an old house with window AC units and 5 miles from campus. When the house was being renovated, my uncle had central air and heating installed. We came to a rent price of $1,300 and placed ads in several places, including Facebook. Within an hour, I got a dozen messages. It's 4 p.m. now, and I literally have over 100 messages. Many of them don't even need to see the house in person. Based off of the pictures and location, They want to submit their application today. Some even offered to send me the deposit, and one person said her dad will pay me the full semester amount today. My uncle gave me some advice that was exactly what you guys said. Never mix money with friends, or I might lose both and never tell anybody my business. He told me not to lie, just keep quiet. Reddit voted not the jerk. In the comments, Ditto Head Forever said, "You're not the jerk. They're getting a great deal, but instead of focusing on that, they're seething with envy. Your uncle didn't buy and renovate that home so that your jealous friends could have a free place to live. He invested in that home so you could have a place to stay and an income while you're in school. Don't back down, OP. Your friends are not entitled to a free roof over their heads just because you have one." Necrotech King said, "Similar happened with someone I know. The issue is they saw you as an equal, and now they see you as someone in a position of power with them. They are now lower than you, and that's going to breed a whole lot of resentment. What you can do is tell them, look, my uncle wanted to rent these rooms out at 1.4K each. I convinced him to do me a favor and let me rent the room to my friends. Convince them they are getting a huge deal. It gives you a shot at salvaging this. Not the jerk." Zesty Golf said, "Your uncle is teaching you a very valuable life lesson. The question is if you will learn it. There will always be freeloaders in your life. How will you handle them?" Talk Q replied, "Just say no to couch hippies." Definitely not the jerk. Let me get this straight. These friends were getting a deal at almost 50% off rent, and that wasn't good enough? Couch hippie, freeloader, there are many references one might use in this scenario, but none of them are synonymous with friend. You think they'd be grateful for the opportunity to save money at all? Agree with the comments that this is a life lesson in the making. Mixing friends with money is like trying to juggle water balloons. Messy, unpredictable, and someone's bound to get soaked. Our fourth story was the least awarded, but the indignation from OP. Well, everyone, including me, loves a good dog pile. And the comments on this one came strong with the truth bombs. Story 4. Am I the jerk for telling my family how much my fiancé earns after years of them making fun of his job? My family is very well educated and full of professionals, including several doctors, surgeons, dentists, etc. I have a good career and make a good living. When I met my fiancé, he was at my house to supervise a roofing crew the insurance company hired to replace my damaged roof. I instantly fell for him when he pulled up in his truck and couldn't keep my eyes off of him for the rest of the day as he gave orders to his men. When we started dating, he was vague about his job, and I just chalked it up to him being insecure about me having a better career. I didn't care about our income imbalance. When we got serious, we talked about our future plans, and that was when he told me the full extent of his little construction company. I was shocked that his construction earnings are as much as my dad's surgeon salary. Gradually, he took me around to the handful of construction lots and shopping centers he owns. His rental income, combined with his construction earnings, are double that of my dad's. He said that few people know about his finances, and he expects me to keep what I know to myself. My parents disapproved of him since the first time I brought him home. My dad coined the term tool boy, and the rest of my family joined in whenever they talk behind my fiancé's back. They don't call him that to his face, but instead make snide remarks. Once my mom said during dinner that they're thinking about hiring someone to mow their lawn, then turned to my fiancé and asked him what he charges. I always try to defend him, and it's a constant battle. It's gotten worse since we're planning our wedding, and the other day my nerves just broke. Yesterday, my parents were trying to get me into getting a prenuptial. Then my dad said, "You have to protect your assets just in case Toolboy decides to go slumming." I lost it and yelled at my parents. During our shouting, I blurted out his earnings and that he makes more than both of them combined. Then I stormed out. I told my fiancé what happened, but instead of supporting me, he got mad that I told his parents that. I argued that I was defending him. Then we got into an argument. My parents and family are mad at me for keeping secrets. My fiancé is mad at me for not keeping secrets. I'm stuck in the middle and don't know what to do. Reddit voted, "You're the jerk." In the comments, Root Tonic asked, "Info. Does your fiancé care that your family thinks so low of him solely based off the assumption he doesn't do well financially? Or does he not care because he knows they're wrong?" OP replied, "To be honest, he doesn't care what people, including my parents, think. When my family makes snide remarks, he laughs with them until it makes them uncomfortable. He's the most confident person I've ever met. All About Bird said, "You're the jerk. You love your fiancé, and of course, it hurts when your parents make fun of him, but be honest. You didn't do this to defend him. You did it to defend yourself and your choice to marry him. You knew that he doesn't want people to know about his finances, so clearly betraying that trust wasn't a favor to him." Agreed. OP is the jerk here. Sharing her fiancé's earnings was completely self-serving. She had the opportunity to set herself apart from her superficial, snobby family, but instead she played into them. Not a good look. A man this humble would undoubtedly have a number of amazing qualities, and that is what she should have spoken to. She basically just demonstrated that her future husband's value to her, as a person, equates to the size of his bank account. Eek! Kinda gross. And that's it for today. Until next time, shine bright, Starlight. If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.